Okay, now that we're back, let's look at how exactly the candidates fulfilled the functions. Remember, again, the function is a hidden essence of the question. What you really should be focusing on apart from the keywords. So, as you probably remember, candidate 1 answered question D. Why do people decide to move from the city to the countryside? Which was suggesting cause and effect. And you might notice that she just rushes into the answer straight away. And I find it amazing. And I recommend it to all of my students. Give the answer straight away. Short, concise answer. Because if you start from afar, you might lose the point. You might lose and stray away. You might stray away from the answer altogether. So she says, for a number of reasons. That's it. And then she expands, then she develops. Often, I think, she says, because they're exhausted. For example, capital cities can be very demanding. Cost of living is high. People grow tired of that, etc. Uh, Younger people, she says, prefer cities, while when you get older, you want to live in the countryside. So, what she does well in this answer is she gives a short answer straight away and then develops it. And secondly, she tends to concentrate and keep to present simple. If you look carefully at this question, at her answer, you'll see that she keeps to present simple, nothing too fancy. But this is exactly what the question is asking of her. Talk about why. Also, because is highlighted here, and as soon as is highlighted here. Can you tell me why? Well, because they fulfill the function in a different way. Since the function is to describe causes, since it starts with why, of course you want to include some relevant linkers like because, as soon as, the reasons for that are blah blah blah, etc. And she does that very well. Also, if you remember, I said that part 3 is general questions. And she uses some very good generalized phrases for that. She says, generally speaking, it is the case, often. All this shows the examiner that she isn't talking about herself. She's talking about people on the whole. So again, short answer from the get-go, then develop it. Use correct linkers to fulfill the function. Use correct tenses to fulfill the function. And use phrases to remind the examiner of the general nature of the question. Let's look at a different answer 2. And let's analyze it together. Answer 2 was the answer to question E. How might overpopulation affect city in the future? Right, so predictions are tricky, aren't they? We've got future simple, we've got phrases like are likely, unlikely, we've got going to, might, could. Let's see what the student says. Well, one possibility that I can foresee is that buildings will keep getting taller and taller. Do you see what the candidate is doing here? Again, a very short, very clear answer. The buildings will, prediction, will be taller and taller. Brilliant. So will is the word to fulfill the function. We are going to need more homes. Another great prediction phrase. We might. That might sound ridiculous. There will be no other option. And since we're asked to talk about a hypothetical situation, no, sorry, hypothetical situation is A. Since we're asked about making a prediction, there is a degree of uncertainty. So the candidate is not shy about using conditionals unless it changes. So if it doesn't change, we're going to need more homes. Fantastic. Everything that you want to see is here in the answer. Short answer from the very beginning. Diverse but correct grammar when it comes to the function for prediction. No focus on themselves. The person is talking about cities on the whole. I find it fantastic. It's a very good answer. Another one, the third one, answer 3. Answer 3, the question was A. The hypothetical situation. So can you identify the short answer? Of course, it's the very first sentence in the monologue. I think that would be a disaster, to be honest. That's it. A very strong start. And would, of course, shows the examiner that the student caught on. That second conditional, that hypothetical, unlikely situation in the future is what we're asked to consider. Could, if, wouldn't, might. It's bound to happen. Do you think you know what it means when something is bound to happen? In this case, are we sure that it will happen, or we are sure it will not happen? It's the former. If you say that something is bound to happen, you are quite sure that it will happen in the future. A fantastic word, a fantastic phrase to use. As long as a very good linker to replace if you ask me. And if you analyze this answer carefully, you'll see that the student, again, isn't talking about themselves. And the only time they talk about themselves is say, I do think. So again, short answer, correct grammar, keeping to the function, talking about the answer generally. Very good. Well, as I said, all answers are going to be very good. And then I'll show you not so straightforward answer from one of my students, because these are taken from a book. So these are sort of adapted, good examples. And then I'll show you an unadapted answer. Okay, answer 4, which is C. Which is preferable, living on the top floor of the studio apartment or in the middle of the countryside? So the student says, I can understand why people want a huge house. Short answer. And then up until here, they expand it because it's romantic, because there are bright lights of the city. However, and this is where comparison comes in. Having said that, a fantastic linker for comparison, I do think it depends on your age. Providing I make enough money, I'll definitely be on the top floor myself one day. So you might think, isn't it forbidden to talk about yourself? Well, it's unadvisable, but as long as it's not the focus of your answer, as long as it's just a passing idea, it's fine. And again, some fantastic phrases to show that we're talking about things in general. Most people, the student says, it sounds amazing. Yes. People want a huge old-fashioned house. All of these phrases highlight the function of speaking part 3. Talk about things on the whole. Okay, one more, and we are done here. And I think I'm going to assign these questions as your homework after this session. So answer 5, where we asked to analyze past and present. Well, the student says, in the old days, your whole life was in one place. All right, the answer is given. And then they develop it. You married someone, your family stayed around you. In some places, it's still like that. But once people were given an opportunity, the traditional family unit started to change. This is where the comparison comes in. But simple but effective. It's a very effective linker of contrast since we're asked to compare. But since we were given an opportunity to move around, the traditional family unit started to change. By the time I'm a grandparent, I think it will be even more different. Again, the candidate says I'm, but it's not the focus of the whole answer. So again, this is a fantastic example. Now, speaking of the grammar, the first part, up until but, uses mostly past simple, doesn't it? Yeah, apart from this, life is still like that. You had a job, you married, your whole life was in one place, etc. Yeah, and in the second part, since that happened, people are now much more spread out. So if you use these tenses efficiently, you show the examiner that you're fulfilling the function of comparison. In this case, it's the comparison between past and present. So let's recap this second part of the session. In order to impress the examiner in speaking part 3, you first want to identify the function of the question that you hear. Even before you start answering, you should have a good idea of the grammar you want to use. Do you need conditionals? What tenses are you going to use? What linkers, what phrases for generalization do you want to use? All of that should flash in a heartbeat in your mind. It is tough, I agree, but it's doable. Next, I recommend giving a short, concise answer straight from the beginning. Just answering the question and then developing it. Then keep within your grammar, make sure it's correct, and lastly, use the phrases of generalization to show the examiner that you are talking about things on the whole, and avoid talking about yourself too much. So 5 main rules. I'll see you in the next part when I'll show you one of my students' answers. See you.